This is my New Holland 575E backhoe. When I got it, the tachometer and hour meter were not working. I found a loose wire at the alternator to fix the tach, but the hour meter was damaged, and when I got it out to see if I could replace it, it had no voltage going to it. So I'm going to try to put a universal tachometer hour meter on it, I got this off eBay. This particular one is similar. The 3000 RPM for a diesel application is similar to a lot of others that were available for US shipping, but all those had small pin connectors and came with a plug and pigtail to adapt them. I think the wiring harness in this already has 1/4 inch quick disconnect fittings, so I had to order this direct from China to get those, and we'll see how it works out. It requires calibration for the different applications, which you do by this button. And looking at the little pamphlet manual that came with it, it says if the speed signals come from W point signal, which is alternator, the ratio value is equal to half electroplate poles divided by 2. Okay, so looking at the illustration from the manual on the alternator, looks like it's got 6 negative poles and 6 positive poles. That's 12 divided by 2, so my calibration number should probably be 6 on this. We'll see how that works out. I'll check the RPMs at the different settings before I take the old tach out, and we'll see how this new one compares when I put it in, provided it works. What I'm planning to do, just preliminary, is I'm going to start it up and look at the idle RPMs. I already know that's 750 RPMs per this tach. And then I'm going to control it. I'm going to bring it up to 1500 or so, and check the angle on the backhoe speed control and see what it does. Maybe set it at 90 degrees and see what the tach reads, just to compare to the new tach once it goes in, and we'll see if that seems accurate enough. So here we go. I have to rev it up to get it going on that tach. So there you see that's at 750, halfway between 5 and 10. We'll raise it up here. Take my angle finder, I think what I'll do, I'll just set it at 1500. I'm having trouble getting my angle adjusted. So I'll set the tach at 1500, and then I'll check my angle. And that appears to be right about 87 degrees. So I'll make a reference to that, and then I'll take this thing apart. Alright, I didn't feel the need to document pulling the cluster loose. It's just 6 Phillips head screws. Half of them needed a stubby, so I just went ahead and used that for all of them. So this looks pretty similar here. This is the plug for the old tach. I'll have to figure out which wire goes where. It may be labeled here when I get it out. And these are 1/4 inch quick disconnect terminals. So I'll probably just have to go in these little slots and pry them out and rearrange them for the new tach, however it's required. So I pull the black wire out, assuming it's ground, to connect my test light to. Turn the key to the on position and check. I'm guessing the red wire is probably going to be hot. It is. Okay. And so, okay, I did go to the wiring diagram and verified my assumptions and testing were correct. So everything should be wired. My plastic wire housing did not align with these pins, so I just had to take all these connectors and plug them on individually. We'll see. I'll go ahead and leave the video running while I set this up here and start the engine just to see what happens. Okay, so this thing's come right up to 750 at idle. So I may not have to calibrate this thing at all. It seemed like I'd read one account and that was the case. That's not going to be right. Yeah, that's not going to be right. So let's go ahead and try to set our calibration. You're supposed to hold that button down and the calibration will come up in this window right here, and then you'll start pushing it till you get your number right. Hold that down, comes up. Something's not right there. Okay, if you let go and start again, it goes up and then it goes down. So let's hold this. Let's see how that looks. That ain't right. So that ain't right. And if you didn't let it go long enough, it so the calibration on this thing's a little finicky. It's got a calibration of 1 to 300. The stepping value is 0.1 for the range 1 through 12, and then it starts jumping in 0.5 increments from range 12 through 300. Where I've got it set now is pretty close to what it was at idle. And it's a little sticky. Once it gets going, you rev it up, it only comes down to like 800 RPMs, whereas when it starts up, it's at 750. So it's off about 50 RPMs, but I don't see a point in trying to tune it any more accurately because it was difficult to get it that close. It's just real finicky. The main objective here was to come up with a hour meter, a functional hour meter, and that seems to be counting, and I'm checking that for accuracy. At 320, it ought to be at 0.4 of an hour. It's at 0.2 now. It got there at 308, so, and it's settled down about 800 RPM. You rev it up. Pretty close to the 1500 with the handle about straight up, which is about where it was. When you go down, it hangs, but then it'll eventually kind of settle on down. The old Tach would hang, it wouldn't even register until you revved it up to 1500, and then it would come down and idle at 750. So the old one was sticky, this one's sticky. But I now have a Tach with a functioning hour meter, which I didn't have before. I don't think there's any danger of over revving. I usually only run this old machine about 15 to 1800 RPMs to keep the hydraulics smooth. And I think that's going to do it for me.